I still remember the moment my world cracked open. It was a warm Friday evening. The kind where the sun hangs low and the air feels soft. My coworkers and I were standing in the company parking lot, laughing and talking about weekend plans. And that's when my car speakers suddenly came alive. A familiar voice filled the air. My wife's voice. Clear, sharp, and very much not meant for me to hear. "Don't worry," she laughed. "He still thinks I'm working late tonight." The group around me went silent. Someone slowly turned toward me. Another coworker tried to pretend he didn't hear it, but the Bluetooth speakers in my car were loud, too loud. Then a man's voice came through the speakers. "Your husband still clueless?" My wife laughed again. Completely. A few people shifted awkwardly. Someone coughed. And in that moment, standing there with 10 coworkers around me and listening to my wife talk about another man, I realized something. My life, my marriage, my trust, had just collapsed through a car speaker. And the worst part, everyone heard it. The parking lot suddenly felt smaller. Too quiet. Too heavy. I walked toward my car slowly. My hands were steady, but inside my chest something was breaking apart piece by piece. The call was still going. The Bluetooth had automatically connected when my wife started the car on her end. I opened the door, sat down, and the voices continued. My coworkers awkwardly drifted away, giving me space, but I could still feel their eyes on me. My wife's voice sounded carefree. Happy. A version of her I hadn't heard in months. "I told him the office is slammed," she said. The man chuckled. "You're terrible." She laughed again. "You're the one who asked me to come over." Then the call ended suddenly. The car fell silent. For a long moment I just sat there, staring at the dashboard. My name is Daniel. I'm 37 years old. And until that evening, I believed I had a good marriage. Not perfect, but good. My wife Emily and I had been married for 9 years. We met in college. She was the loud one in every room, the one who made people laugh. I was quieter, more reserved, but somehow it worked. At least, I thought it did. Over the last year things had changed. Emily started working late more often. She said the company was expanding, new responsibilities, more pressure. I believed her. I always believed her. That night I drove home slowly. Not angry, not yelling, just thinking. There's something strange about betrayal. When it first happens, your brain refuses to accept it. You start searching for other explanations. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was a joke. But deep down, you know. When I got home the house was quiet. The living room lights were dim and the kitchen was spotless. Emily had left earlier that afternoon. She told me she had a late meeting. I stood there for a long moment. Then I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were still steady. That surprised me. I thought I'd be shaking, but I wasn't. Instead I felt something else. Clarity. The next morning I woke up early. Emily came home around midnight and I pretended to be asleep. She moved quietly through the bedroom, changed clothes, and slipped into bed. I could smell perfume, not the one she usually wore. I stared at the ceiling in the dark and made a decision. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to accuse her in the middle of the night. I was going to learn the truth. All of it. The following week I watched and listened. I paid attention to things I had ignored before. Emily was always careful with her phone, always face down on the table, always locked. She smiled more when texting, but those smiles were never for me. One evening she said casually, "I'll be working late again tomorrow." I nodded. "Okay." She kissed my cheek and said, "I appreciate how understanding you are." Those words stayed with me. Understanding. The next afternoon something unexpected happened. I was sitting at a coffee shop near my office reviewing a contract for work when a woman approached my table. "Daniel?" I looked up. She was probably in her early 40s, professional with sharp but kind eyes. "Yes?" She hesitated, then sat down across from me. "My name is Rachel," she said quietly. "I think we need to talk." I felt a strange tension in the air. "About what?" She looked around the cafe and lowered her voice. "It's about Emily." My chest tightened, but my voice stayed calm. "What about her?" Rachel took a slow breath. "I work in the same building as her company, and I've seen her a few times." I already knew what she meant, but hearing it out loud still hurt. "With a man," she said gently. The cafe noise faded into the background. Rachel continued carefully. "I didn't want to get involved. But yesterday I overheard her laughing about you." My stomach dropped. "She said you were too trusting to ever suspect anything." Silence hung between us. Finally I asked, "Do you know the man?" She nodded. "His name is Mark. He works in another office upstairs." I leaned back in my chair, not angry, just absorbing it. Rachel studied my face. "You're very calm." I gave a small smile. Inside, it's a different story. She nodded slowly. I figured. Before leaving she said something else that would change everything. They're planning something next Friday, a company mixer. A lot of people will be there. I raised an eyebrow. And? Rachel hesitated. I heard Emily telling Mark she's going to introduce him to everyone properly soon. That sentence hit harder than the Bluetooth call. Introduce him, meaning she was already imagining a life after me. Rachel stood up. I'm sorry, she said sincerely. I thought you deserved to know. I watched her walk out of the cafe, and that's when a new plan formed in my mind. Not revenge. Not anger. Just truth. The company mixer was held in a large event hall downtown. A fancy place with crystal lights, soft music, and expensive drinks. Emily told me about it casually 2 days earlier. I might be home late Friday, she said. It's a work event. I nodded. Sounds fun. She smiled. It's mostly networking. Friday evening arrived, but Emily didn't know something. I was going too. Rachel had arranged it. Her company shared the same venue and guests were welcome. When I entered the hall the room buzzed with conversation. People laughing. Glasses clinking. I spotted Emily across the room. She looked beautiful in a black dress with her hair carefully styled. And standing beside her was a tall man with a confident posture and an easy smile. Mark. They were close, too close. Rachel appeared beside me. You okay? I nodded. Yes. Are you sure about this? She asked. I looked around the room, at the people, the stage in the corner, and the projector screen behind it. Yes, I said quietly. I'm sure. The event organizer stepped onto the stage and tapped the microphone. Good evening everyone. The crowd settled. Short speeches began, company updates and announcements. Then Rachel gently nudged me. Now. I walked toward the stage. The organizer looked confused as I approached, but Rachel whispered something to him and he handed me the microphone. The room grew quiet. Emily noticed me and her smile vanished instantly. Mark looked confused. I stood there calmly, holding the microphone. Good evening. My voice was steady and clear. Most of you don't know me, but some of you know my wife. Whispers spread through the crowd. Emily looked frozen. I continued calmly. Earlier this week my car connected to my wife's phone through Bluetooth, and I heard a conversation that wasn't meant for me. The room went completely silent. Emily's face turned pale and Mark shifted uncomfortably. I heard laughter, I said. I heard someone asking if her husband was clueless. A few people looked toward Emily. And I heard my wife say, yes. Silence pressed against the room. Then I reached into my jacket pocket and placed a document on the podium. I'm not here to embarrass anyone, I said calmly. I'm here because respect matters. Emily's eyes filled with panic. This, I said, tapping the paper, is a divorce agreement. Gasps spread through the crowd. I signed it this afternoon. I paused and looked directly at Emily. You're free to build the life you were already planning. The room was frozen. Then I added quietly, but next time, respect the person who trusted you. I stepped away from the microphone, placed the document on the podium, and walked off the stage. No shouting. No anger. Just truth. Behind me I could hear murmurs spreading through the hall. Rachel met me near the exit. You handled that with incredible dignity, she said. I took a slow breath. I didn't want revenge. What did you want? I looked back at the room one last time. Closure. Outside the night air felt cool and quiet. For the first time in days, I felt light. Sometimes people think strength means shouting, fighting, or proving someone wrong. But real strength is walking away with your dignity intact. Because respect is the foundation of every relationship. Without it, love cannot survive. And trust, once broken, is very hard to rebuild. Months later my life looks very different. Quieter. Simpler. But honest. And that honesty is worth everything. If this story resonated with you, let me know where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.